Hey guys, what's up? Saying plugins are better than the analog hardware that they emulate is like saying bass players and drummers are real musicians. Let's get started. You missed. I have one t-shirt contest earlier. What's up guys, Mike here, and welcome back to another episode of Engineers and Friends, and today we're going to be talking all things hardware. That's preamps, EQs, compressors, patch bays, and we're going to be talking about how to integrate them with your current audio interface. We're going to be working with the Apollo, but this will work with any type of interface. And so my studio has been kind of growing over the last year and has all sorts of wiring issues. I've been meaning to pull it apart for a long time. Today seems like a good day to do it. So let's pull it apart. We'll talk about all the different things that I have, how they might benefit you in your studio, and then we'll show you how to put it all back together and wire it up with the interface. Let's get to getting. All right, so first up, we have basically my current setup, which is I have a Samson S Patch Bay. And then I have, these are all like different units, but they're all the same preamp. I really like the Focusrite ISA 110s. They just sound amazing on drums. And that's basically all I use them for at this point. But they sound good on anything. So I have the ISA 2 here. This is the ISA 428, another ISA 2. These make up 8 of my preamps and they go directly into the Apollo. We'll talk about how to do that. This is another patch bay. This is an Xlr Patch Bay. So we're going to be reorganizing this, but this is just basically where I plug in all my XLRs to get into my system. And then I have a Warm Audio WA76 and then the Warm Audio WA2A. So these are emulations. This one's of the 1176 and then this is of the famous Teletronics LA2A. Now definitely they have a different sound than those famous units, but they do a pretty good job. Okay, let's move on up real quick. So I have the Focusrite Liquid channel here. Really great emulator. It can emulate almost any preamp and compressor. And then I have my Apollo Quad. It's got 4 preamps. Sounds really, really good. I use the Unison preamps all the time. And then I have a Warm Audio WA EQP. The mix desk, that's what I call it. That is the Icon QCon. It's the older version of the Icon QCon. Pretty good, little finicky. They freeze a lot, and sometimes they have me banging my head into a wall. But when they work really nicely. And I think probably that their problems are more because of my computer than anything. So that's basically what we're running. Oh, last but not least, I got the PreSonus Monitor Station version 2. This is just basically running my speakers and my talkback. So that's kind of where we are at. All right, so got most of the fluff off the top here, so now let's actually get into the hardware of the nuts and bolts of the studio. All right, let's disassemble it. Whew. Hey guys, welcome back. It's 3 days later, but that construction and demolition process just took a lot longer than I wanted it to, but that's probably because I'm just terrible at woodworking. But here's the final product. Everything came out a-okay, and so just wanted to show you what this looked like before we jumped into how it all is wired together and how all these pieces of gear talk to each other. So let's jump into it. So my audio interface is the Apollo Quad. It's Firewire, silver-faced. I love it to death. It's finicky, but it's definitely versatile. And as I'm talking about wiring it up, I'm going to show you guys some diagrams. I kind of have to talk about all the patch bays and all the other gear in conjunction with this, so bear with me. So Xlr Patch Bays, what are they? I have the ART P16 and it works really well for me. It's basically just a pass-through. It's a conduit where I can take a microphone or anything I'm using Xlr to record, and I can plug it in one end, I can route to whatever piece of gear that I need it to go to. Here's a quick diagram of the back, or the front and back, of what the P16 looks like. So as you can see, the front side is basically just where we plug the XLRs. The back side is where things get a little bit more complicated. 1 through 4, the inputs 1 through 4 for me are running to my Apollo, the inputs on my Apollo. 5 through 7 are going to my Scarlett 18i20, which is an audio interface, however I'm just using its preamps. Input 8, that's going to my Focusrite liquid channel, and 9 through 16, those are going to my Focusrite ISA 110s. Okay, I know it's hard to see, but outputs 1 through 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the Apollo, that's the Apollo's inputs, are now corresponding to the Xlr Patch Bay right here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And basically all this Xlr Patch Bay is doing is allowing me to plug things in the front of it so I don't have to plug them directly into the back. It's just more of a pass-through. Okay. From there, we're basically going to go in 2 directions. One direction is going to be going to external hardware. That's going to be my ISA 110s and the Focusrite liquid channel. And then the other direction is going to be directly to the audio interface. Let's take a look at the back of these units. So my ISA preamp setup is slightly unique. It's not all that different though than any other type of setup that's going to run an optical out. Where it's unique is I'm basically feeding the 428 with 2 ISA 2s. These all combine into 8 preamps, and then it shoots over to the Apollo via optical out. Let's take a look at the back and how this is actually being accomplished. So if you recall the P16 Xlr Patch Bay wiring diagram, we utilize outputs 9 through 16 to go to the ISAs. Here's where we pick up that trail. So if we turn the ISAs around and we go to the back, those XLRs coming out of the patch bay are now plugging into the inputs to the ISAs. Inputs 9 and 10 are going to the top ISA units, mic inputs 1 and 2. Outputs 11 through 14 are going to the middle units, that's the ISA 428s, mic inputs 1 through 4. And outputs 15 and 16 are running to the bottom ISA 2 units, mics 1 and 2. From there, both ISA 2 units, their outputs are running to the ISA 428s, the middle unit, its ADC or digital inputs. Therefore, we're utilizing all of its capability. Okay, so there is the complete setup. Basically what I have done is all the ins are coming from the patch bay right there. All of the outs, well, I'm sorry, for the ISA 2s, all the outs are coming to the ISA 428. And now I'm going to take my optical cable and I'm going to run it to the Apollo. So that was a lot. However, we still got more to do. All right, well, I'm not going to spend too much time on the liquid channel because its process is literally the same as the Focusrite ISA preamps. So basically, we're going to take the output from the Xlr Patch Bay. In this case, this would be output 8, and it's going to go to the liquid channel, and then the output of the liquid channel is going to go to our Apollo. And speaking of the Apollo, this is the back of what it now looks like. So check it out. What you're looking at is everything we've talked about so far. So on the far right is the 4 inputs coming directly from the Xlr Patch Bay. And on the far left is the input coming in from the Focusrite ISA preamps. And then if you look there in the middle, that's the input from the liquid channel. So that's where we stand. So I know this is very confusing and complicated, but the principle of it is pretty simple. We're taking the outputs of my Xlr Patch Bay and we're running into the inputs of the preamps, and then the preamps are running outputs to the inputs of the audio interface, or the patch bay is going directly to the audio interface itself. So the last piece of the puzzle that we have to add is the external hardware like compressors and EQs. How do we fit this into the system? Alright, so the answer to all that lies in this Samson S-Patch Patch Bay system. Oh boy. Okay, so I'm not going to get completely into the nuts and bolts of patch bays, but I will give you a brief overview of what they do and how they kind of work. So check out this diagram real quick. The big thing with patch bays is the top line versus the bottom line. And this is where it gets a little counterintuitive, because the top line represents the out of equipment. So you have to run the outs of your equipment to the out of the patch bay, and that's where it's a little weird, because every time we hook anything up, it's always out to in, right? So not the case for this patch bay. And the same goes for the bottom line. The bottom line is the input. We are going to be hooking the inputs of equipment to the input of this patch bay. Just think of it as an extension of the unit itself. So if I have a compressor, its output is represented by the top line and its input is represented by the bottom line. Don't think of it in any other way. For organizational purposes and for this video, you're going to put your outputs directly over your inputs. So on this diagram, you see my Apollo outs are right above my Apollo inputs. When we go to our compressors, the WA76, its out is right over its in. Same thing with the WA2A and then the EQP WAs. Those are my tube EQs. We will get into how to access these in your DAW in a different video. It seems like a challenge, but it's really not that hard once you get your head around the concept. Just remember, out is top, in is bottom, and you'll be good. So is analog hardware better? Well, that's up to the listener to decide, but I do have some thoughts. So we live in an amazing day and age where everybody can record. All you need is a laptop and an audio interface, and that's great. But I feel like some of the depth that made some of the most famous records of all time what they were was created by analog gear. The way we can set ourselves apart as musicians and engineers in today's day and age is to continue to lean on analog while staying largely within the box. Analog preamps and compressions and EQs can just do certain things that the digital realm cannot do. Both are incredibly powerful tools to use, especially when we can use them in conjunction with one another. It's an exciting time to be alive and to be a musician and an artist. So I hope you can take something from this video and apply it to your own studio. If you have any questions, please leave me a comment and I'll be quick to respond. With all the coronavirus scare going on out there, please be safe and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot for tuning in to Engineers and Friends.